Bolivia, Armenia's new outlook towards the West, and the parliamentary election in Ethiopia. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with our fun topic first. And this one is really interesting because there is a new political party in India that is very popular with the Gen Zers, and it's called the Cockroach Janta Party, CJP. It's a satirical movement in response to comments from India's Supreme Court Chief Justice comparing unemployed youngsters to cockroaches and parasites. It has gained nearly 23 million followers on Instagram, and that's more than the ruling BJP, which is led by Narendra Modi. And the Indian government has placed a social media ban, and it seems that the CJP's account is restricted on X, formerly Twitter. So the government claims that the party could be a national security issue, and it's possibly funded by Pakistan. So the movement's president is a 30-year-old student, and he believes that the party is the political home of India's young, unemployed, and chronically online. His remarks have struck a chord among many young people in India, where about 65% of the population is under 35. So it's a big demographic for a very, very large country. So the past 4 years have seen youth movements across South Asia that have toppled governments. So this would be something to challenge the long reigning leadership of Modi. Two most notable countries that have seen their governments toppled by Gen Z movements is Bangladesh and Nepal. So, unlike those revolutionaries, the Cockroach Party are not torching their parliament, as happened in Nepal last September, and they are jokingly dressing up as insects. But they're doing it for a good cause because they're trying to clean up their neighborhoods and riverbanks. So the CJP's platform so far includes democratic demands of a freer press and fairer elections. It seems like it's a really positive movement, and they're really taking on this persona of being cockroaches, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, and this is just crazy how popular it has been. Like, it's almost three times the people following Narendra Modi,
yeah,
which is just like massive.
yeah,
And the good thing about that, and you mentioned it, is that it's like a very, like, let's say, chill movement, like very positive one. So it's just like you're seeing them, they're denouncing some like all the bad stuff that are happening in their country, and they're doing some good things around. So
I just really love to see something being funny, but it's also being positive as well. You just don't get to see a lot of positive political movements very often. So it's really great to be seeing such young people getting together, trying to make their lives better, but they also have a sense of humor. So it's not just like,
yeah.
I'm going to do this for my country and burp, burp, burp.
And it sounds like it's so much different from what happened in Nepal and Bangladesh before, and also like other youth movements
Yes.
in Southeast Asia. You're just like, well, these are the good ones, and they're just like going around and doing nice stuff like that. So it's surprisingly funny, but also like very nice, like in a
Hopeful.
political and social way. So it's really funny.
So now we'll get to our first topic, which is on the protests in Bolivia. A rapidly escalating political crisis in the country is centered on an anti-government protest due to economic collapse and energy crisis and intensifying regional polarization. President Rodrigo Paz, a center-right leader recently elected, has been implementing a program of austerity and economic shock therapy designed to address inflation and chronic fuel shortages by ending Bolivia's longstanding fuel subsidy system. The reforms appear to have accelerated public anger as shortages persisted, and allegations emerged that imported fuel had been adulterated with low quality products and are damaging vehicles. So, this led to massive protests led by labor unions and transport groups and have paralyzed the capital La Paz and other parts of the country, resulting in death, injuries, and growing calls for Paz's resignation. The unrest has simultaneously revived the political relevance of former leftist President Evo Morales, despite ongoing legal troubles and an arrest warrant related to alleged abuse charges that Morales claims are politically motivated. The current president, President Paz, has reforms that reflect a familiar pattern in the region in which governments attempt to stabilize the financial market through policy. But this backlash from the citizens have occurred when removing subsidies immediately raising the cost for those already in a struggling economy. Fuel subsidies are particularly sensitive because of how their knock-on effect, because they affect transportation and food prices and daily life all at the same time. But on top of this, regional neighbors have been quite outspoken about these economic reforms, particularly Colombia's President Petro. He criticized Paz as a puppet of the United States and the Bolivian oligarchs. So that's quite an accusation to make. The Bolivian government responded by expelling Colombia's ambassador. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
the US officials have framed the unrest as an ongoing coup d'etat, reflecting Washington's support for Paz after his restoration of relations with the Trump administration. Some of the images that are coming out are quite stark. People are very mad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Don't
And, the,
blame them.
and there's blockades everywhere. I've seen some stuff on social medias where even so tourists are like actually trapped in the country trying to escape from and wherever they can. And there's issues with mainly with fuel for these tourists because they are just like not able to get anywhere they would like to go. And yeah, being trapped into this political and social movement, that's hard, and especially seeing all the videos about the protesters.
Yeah. And then on top of that, with fuel prices escalating because of what's happening in the Middle East, yes, they have Guyana and Venezuela nearby. So technically, they would be able to get oil and gas. But everything is so in shock right now that it's hard to imagine that they're not paying like astronomical amounts of money for gas and oil. So because the prices are already going up, and then on top of that, their subsidies have been taken away. It's like, I mean, of course people are going to be mad. They have to be able to feed their children. They have to be able to get to work. That it just compounds everything whenever there's an energy crisis, and taking that subsidy away is just, it just feels like that they need to be able to help their citizens in other ways. And the remark about Bolivian oligarchs, it's like, maybe you should start taxing, people have money, affect them, not the little guy. But it's also like you don't want that business to go away, which is why you don't tax those people. So it's always like this balance to try and make sure that you can give the people what they need. And but it's, definitely overspilling into the other country with Colombia having, their own remarks.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, it's a very logical social movement. I've seen it also a lot in France. Questions raised about big oil companies. France, it's probably one of the biggest in the world, Total, who's been um, targeted by some left wing political parties who are asking the government to tax, more importantly, Total, which is also quite specific because it's a French company and they are already not overtaxing the people in France. So company is already reducing the taxes on the petrol they're selling in France. And so I see that as just a very logical movement that is impacting the entire world. Like it's the
Yeah.
same in Europe, it's the same in Latin America, and at different level, of course, but still like it's frightening how everyone is impacted.
You're absolutely right. The smallest thing can like make a huge difference in people's lives, and for them to be the protests getting so incredibly large and out there, it's pretty amazing to see like the kind of response that they've had, and to be trying to bring back a president who's politically toxic at the same time is like it just that's how desperate people are, is that they don't care. They just need somebody to be able to make their lives a little bit easier and be able to live. And for our next topic,
So now about Armenia's elections. So Armenia is heading into decisive parliamentary elections that will do far more than just simply renew the legislature. On June the 7th, votes will determine whether the country confirms Nikol Pashinyan's line, so greater autonomy from Moscow and closer ties with the European Union, and of course, a search for a durable peace with Azerbaijan, or whether the opposition can reopen the door to a more pro-Russian realignment. The main issue is strategic. Since the loss of Nagorno-Karabakh and the weakening of Russia's security guarantee, Yerevan has been trying to redefine its place in the South Caucasus. Pashinyan is betting on regional normalization, but the strategy is politically risky because part of the electorate blames him for the concession tied to peace, while his opponents accuse him of weakening the nation. Against him, the opposition remained fragmented, even if several figures and networks still retain real influence. Problem for Pashinyan's critics is not only electoral but structural. They struggle to offer a credible and unified alternative. So the election will also be a test of outside influence. Russia is trying, of course, to preserve its leverage over Armenia, while the EU is backing the country's democratic resilience and Western opening. So in that context, the vote will not just settle a partisan contest, it will shape Armenia's diplomacy, its relationship with Baku as well, and the geopolitical balance of the South Caucasus for years to come. So actually, what we'll see is pretty much what has been going on for the entire Caucasus in general. I've talked about it a bit in an article that you can find on the websites about the Russian influence in Georgia. It's pretty much the same for Armenia. So we'll see how the vote will go on June the 7th. I hope, but it's of course like a personal vision that countries will continue to grow towards more European way. So yeah, we'll see.
it's interesting. You talk about relations with Azerbaijan, especially after taking over Nagorno Karabakh, and back in 2023. Yeah. So when that happened, it must have destroyed diplomatic relations. And I mean, the Russians didn't really come and help. The Russians have a base located inside Armenia. So you would think having that strong backer would have prevented that loss of territory. But now Armenia has to go to Azerbaijan and say, let's get a peace deal on the table. And they do have a declaration that they signed at the White House late last year, and basically saying now we're going to have the Trump line or supply line. I can't remember the name of it, but I know his name is in it. Because he solved that war. Yeah, because he
Yeah,
solved like six
of
or
course.
seven wars. Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting because that supply line is right next to the Iranian border. So everything that's going on with the US and Iran has its impact there as well. It's interesting that because Armenia had such close ties with Russia for such a long time, they're still trying to manipulate their elections, and there are many people are worried that there will be social media campaigns that'll really start ramping up within the next week, since it's going to be next week that the elections are held. It really is an interesting area to keep an eye out for, to see what kind of soft power Russia still has in the region, what kind of influence they'll have, and what kind of outcome there's going to be. So, yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see whether or not it the citizens are ready to move towards Europe or keep sticking with Russia.
Yeah, and that's good that you talk about the relationship between Armenia and Azerbaijan because it is crazy how these two countries have gone from open conflicts about Nagorno-Karabakh to kind of like a like renewed and appeased relationship um, for the past 3 years,
Mhm.
and it's also like I think partially because there has been an understanding of their crucial position between Asia and Europe, and primarily because of the trade routes and pipelines, all these um, strategic structures, and and I think that they've been growing more conscious about this important. That's why they've been reopening and appeasing the dialogues between them. That's why, as well, Russia is so much willing to influence the results of the elections in the region.
Yeah, you're right. It's gonna be really interesting what the outcome is going to be. But speaking of other elections, we've got another one coming up in Ethiopia. By the time this episode is released, the election will be well underway. But in the last week, Ethiopia's electoral body, the National Election Board of Ethiopia, has announced that the elections would not take place in 46 electoral districts in the conflict affected areas of Amhara and Tigray regions, and they're citing insecurity and political tensions. The NEBE has published figures at first glance reflecting a functioning democracy. There's 47 registered political parties and nearly 11,000 candidates and millions of voters. Some estimates are 50, and they have about 135 million people that reside inside Ethiopia. However, the ruling Prosperity Party holds 457 out of 547 parliamentary seats. So experts agree that this will remain the case. So on June 1st, Ethiopians will certainly re-elect Prime Minister Abiy with a majority of over 90%, stated by the political analysis of Martin Plaut. And the peace and conflict researcher
Research.
at Oslo New University College also said that the electoral process is a symbolic exercise rather than a political contest. He states that whether this will have any impact on the lives of ordinary people is truly unclear, and whether this will lead to further unrest and conflicts, either the northern region of Tigray or enabling Prime Minister Abiy to start a war with Eritrea or get entangled with other conflicts such as Sudan. We just don't know. That's a full quote. The prime minister also announced that the election will signal stability and progress, but the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, who was honored at the time for democratic reforms, now stands at the helm of a nation deeply divided along various fault lines. This is especially noteworthy in the Tigray region and has been since it's been excluded from the election. And it's also banned the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the entire political party. They are a very influential political actor in the region, and they've consolidated their authority and by challenging the central government. So they've raised their fears of renewed confrontation with Abiy's government and wider instability in the Horn of Africa. It's a very volatile area, the Horn of Africa. So Ethiopia is one of the strongest economies. So it's something that needs to be stabilized so that it doesn't spill over. Since there's already so much going on in Sudan, it's really difficult to keep a lid on all the conflict that's happening in this region.
Yeah, and what's even more crazy is that they are surrounded by tensions. Whether it's Sudan and war here is particularly important and very complicated. The tensions with Eritrea as well. And also something I think that is quite important as well is the issue with Somaliland and the fact that they would probably there would probably be political ties and relations with Somaliland that Somalia would definitely be triggered with that. So it's a very difficult position for Ethiopia, and of course they are landlocked, so there's this need for them to obtain specific waterways. So of course, either through Eritrea or through Somaliland, which would cause potentially huge damage with the relations with Somalia and, of course, with the greater region.
Right, when they had that memorandum of understanding, several years ago between Somaliland and Ethiopia, they wanted to be able to get to the port, the DP port that the UAE built in Somaliland. So they really wanted to be able to get to the Red Sea and be able to trade. It's really interesting you say Somaliland. The tensions between the federal government of Somalia and Ethiopia have been very strained ever since then. I know that Turkey has been very interested in making sure that things don't spiral out of control because it's like you said, it's a very volatile region. It's if you're landlocked and then you're not able to get out, you're not able to get all the resources you need. But having that relationship with Somaliland really does help them it's really helped them become the economic powerhouse in that region. So losing that territory, Eritrea, uh, definitely hurt them, but they were able to bring themselves back and by connecting with other territories.
Yeah. And definitely these elections will be complicated. I mean, the issue might be the issues of the elections might be complicated and might impact as well very much. What I see directly is then the relations with Somalia, but for sure as well, connection with Sudan and South Sudan as well, and Eritrea. So I don't know which one will be the most impactful or important, but all three, all the countries, all the neighboring countries will be definitely impacted by um, the outcome of these elections.
Yeah, and I think from all of the research that I did, from what I've read, a lot of people feel like they're not going to be heard. Their chief concerns are not going to be addressed. It's just going to be another stamp to go after the Tigray region. So it's really difficult and disheartening to see one country just feel beaten down, and then you look at Bolivia, and they're just trying to rise up to say, "No, we're not having this." And then there's Armenia, who just wants to still trying to figure out what its path is.
And something that is also like quite important is the impact of foreign influence. So from the UAE, uh, particularly, they've been involved in multiple regions, more and more in Eastern Africa, and this country is as well impacted by these foreign influence. So I don't know where it will go
Mhm.
and how impactful it will be in the end, but it's something that is definitely important to notice as well.
You're definitely seeing a lot of these countries, there's foreign influence for sure, and it's just difficult to get our heads wrapped around all of that. So it is nice to see a homegrown roots type of party that we talked about in the beginning with the cockroach party in India. So I do think that it's nice to see that sort of thing without so much foreign influence, but it just shows you how important regional influence means when it comes to elections. So I just think that it's going to be a really interesting time within the next month to see how all of these elections play out. So I wanted to say thank you for joining us today, and remember to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And please tell your friends and family about us, and we would love to hear from you. So please feel free to comment or send us an email, get in touch with us. And you can find all of our social media platforms in the show notes or visit whygeopoliticsmatters.com. Bye.
See you.
For more articles on why geopolitics matters, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at whygeopoliticsmatter.com.